See,
Okay.
hopefully people come in. Okay, here they come. Well, good afternoon, everybody. As you come in, we're going to just wait a couple minutes, let everyone get into the webinar. Participants are coming in now. So just give us a second and we'll get started here in about a minute or so. Feel free to drop in the chat. Let us know where you're from. We know you participants are coming in from all over the country. Cold Michigan, uh-oh. All righty, we've got about 402, 403. So why don't we get this kicked off? So good afternoon and welcome to the Foundation for Teaching Economics webinar, Economics of Dating, How Economics Can Help Explain Vegas, Spring Break, and Relationships. Just in time for Valentine's Day, today's talk will provide unique insight into the intersection of love and the economic way of thinking. I'm Ted Tucker, Executive Director of the Foundation. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Professor Ninos Malik. Professor Malik is an economics professor at De Anza College in Cupertino, California, and a lecturer at San Jose State University. He's an award-winning teacher lecturer who has been the winner of the College of Social Sciences Teaching Excellence Award in 2019. Before earning his PhD in economics from George Mason University, Professor Malik taught government economics and AP economics at Valley Christian High School in San Jose, California. He's been an instructor in our Economics for Leaders program and our Issues of International Trade seminars, and I'm grateful for him giving today's presentation. A recording of this webinar, along with Dr. Malik's slide deck, will be posted on the FTE website in a day or two following the conclusion of his presentation. After his talk, which will last about 45 minutes, we'll have about 10 to 15 minutes for questions. We ask that you use the Q&A feature of Zoom when submitting questions. Obviously, feel free to upvote questions that you see that you like. And then following this webinar, we will have a short evaluation of today's presentation that we'd ask you to fill out. So having said that, Professor Malik, I'll turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ted. Hello, everyone. Two things, forgive my voice and the glare off of my big bald head, but hopefully everything will go well. Valentine's Day, I might be saving you some money this year. And as I like to say, some of your social media statuses, I used to say Facebook, but I was corrected by one of my college students that only old people use Facebook now. I'm like, come on, really? I'm going to be 51 here in August. So in any case, I said, on Facebook, there's that in a relationship. And I tell them after taking my class, your relationship status will go to single or to at least it's complicated because economics will free you, maybe even from that relationship. And I'll get into more of that. But just remember this, it might be better to be single than to be in that relationship you're in now. So in any case, let's continue. Are you currently in a dating relationship? And you can go ahead and put that in the chat box if you choose to answer yes or no. And again, after this presentation, maybe I should have this question again and your answer might change. But some of you right now are in a dating relationship, maybe just started, maybe it's a serious relationship, or one day you'll be in a relationship. And the principles you're going to learn here today, I like to say, will affect that because economics is not just about money in the stock market, right? People find out I have a PhD in economics and they ask me, hey, how do I make $1 million by the end of the year? I'm like, if I knew that, I would be living in some mansion in the Bahamas or in Italy or wherever, right? Economics is fundamentally about people making choices. It's about human action. So my slogan, I think it's Match.com that says, no other website has led to more marriages than Match.com. Well, I'm going to trademark this. I always tell my students, and I haven't done it yet, but no other professor has broken up more relationships or prevented future marriages than Ninos Malik. And I am proud of that. You know how many years of drama I have saved my students? years of heartache, therapy, maybe a divorce attorney fees, because they paid attention to my class. At the beginning of every quarter, where I teach at De Anza College, in the beginning of every semester at San Jose State, when I tell the students this, there's some who look at me almost with like eyes of hope, like, yes, you too can be freed after listening to this. I have some students, and I remember one couple, they were looking at each other and you knew they were dating, like almost like, we'll never break up. At the end of the quarter, one of them sent an email to me, "Dear professor, thank you for a great quarter. I just want to let you know that we actually did break up." I'm like, "Oh, you're welcome. I don't know what to say." And then there are the students who just look at me like they're bored and they're just so angry. I'm like, wow, with that attitude, no one's going to want to date you anyway, so don't worry about it. But pay attention today. Better to be single than in a bad dating relationship. I said that at the beginning and I'll say it again. And by the way, I just want to make this clear. I'm not Dr. Phil. And I don't know if you've seen the movie. It's a few years now with Will Smith. It was called Hitch. He was a dating expert. So I'm not the dating doctor. I'm not the dating expert. I'm Dr. Malik. I'm not Dr. Phil. I'm not Dr. Oz. Which is funny, he gives life advice and he's a thoracic surgeon. That's a different issue. But in any case, I'm not here to give you advice, but hopefully the principles you'll be able to apply. So first thing, some basic econ. You hear love is free. No, it's not. I never want to hear you use the F word again. And I know what you're thinking, you shouldn't say that one either. Free. Nothing is free. Nothing is free. And there's a difference between the word in economics, price and cost, right? When we say, I bought a coffee at Starbucks, typically a person will say it cost me $5, or the movie ticket cost me 15. I love movies and coffee as my examples. What I want you to say now is that the price of the coffee is $5. The price of the movie is 15. Cost in economics means what you gave up, what you sacrificed. So the $5 latte cost you a sandwich you could have bought instead with that same money. So is love free? No, nothing is free. Dating sites versus the old days. We're going to talk about that. Why do people date? Are you too picky? Have people told you that? Or are you not picky enough? Are you staying in a dead-end relationship that you just know is not right because of bad economic thinking? I'll show you how the days of the week and the times of the day someone chooses to spend with you will let you know whether they like you, or if they just like you as a friend. I can't believe The Bachelor is still on, but what are they really saying at that last, episode right before the after the rose ceremony? What are they really saying in economics terms? And then I'm going to talk about some important factors you should consider if you are or one day will be in a serious relationship, especially if you're considering marriage. And then we'll perhaps talk about some Vegas club pricing, why they charge different cover charges, and some behavior you notice. And by the way, I'm going to say this. I'm doing this as a neutral economist. Economics can explain behavior you agree with or behavior you think is immoral. I leave that up to you. I'm just going to give you the economic tools that you can use to analyze behavior that you will see in the future. Okay, so I already told you price versus cost. TANSTOFL, that's the famous acronym. There ain't no such thing as a free lunch. Nothing is free. Love is not free, as I said earlier. Why? Because even though you're not spending money, perhaps, maybe someone doesn't expect you to buy them this or that. If you truly love somebody, you're giving up something, of course, your precious, valuable time. Some other concepts and definitions. Opportunity cost in economics means the next best thing you gave up, the highest valued alternative that you gave up. It's not everything you're giving up. So this webinar that you're watching is not free to you. Now, you didn't pay money, but you're giving up your precious, valuable time. Right now, you're giving up the chance to catch up on your favorite Amazon Prime or Netflix show. So that's what you're giving up. It's not everything else you're giving up, because you could think of about 100 different things you could be doing right now, right? But you can't literally do all of those 100 things. It's what comes in second place. That's the easy way to think of opportunity cost. What you're giving up now is very different than somebody else watching this webinar. And that's what we mean by cost and benefits are subjective. They are individual to you. Preferences are subjective. You like certain things, you're attracted to a certain type. Someone else likes something else, is attracted to a different type. Costs and benefits depend on you. They are subjective. Revealed preference means actions speak louder than words. So when people say, what a ripoff, at the movie theater, $15 for a movie, what a ripoff. Can I have 2 tickets, please? If you thought it was a ripoff, you wouldn't voluntarily take your wallet out and spend your money at the movie. You would wait until it comes out on Netflix or on demand. The fact that you're voluntarily choosing to pay says something. So basically, you've heard of the phrase, talk is cheap. Your actions say otherwise. Marginal means the additional or the extra. It's what we call incremental thinking. Do I eat that extra slice of pizza? Do I sleep in that 1 extra hour? Do I read the textbook chapter 1 more time? Do I date this person 1 extra month before, or 1 extra year, whatever the increment is, I'll just say months, before proposing marriage or before you decide to break up? And then total utility versus marginal utility. So there's a famous paradox, a puzzle in economics known as the diamond water paradox. Water is liquid life, right? We need water to live. Diamonds are just jewelry. And, I don't know what was Rihanna saying about diamonds. You need water. If you try to drink diamonds, you will die. And yet when you go to Tiffany or whatever jewelry store, that little diamond has that little price tag with a big number, depending on the cut, clarity, color, and all that, right? I think it's the 4 C's, the things you learn when you propose, versus water, which is liquid life. And yet when you go to the store, a bottle of water is like $2. I have students who forget their bottle of water underneath their desk, and I have to tell them, excuse me, please throw that in the trash. If that bottle were full of diamonds, it's amazing how their memory would be phenomenal, right? So water, we would say, at the margin has a very low marginal utility. Unless you're dying of thirst, that extra bottle of water is only worth $2 or $3 to you. But that extra diamond, you're willing to spend thousands of dollars because it means a yes or no when you propose. If I would have tried to propose to my wife with a bottle of, Aquafina or even that Voss water, that fancy, I would be single today, right? And so my old professor, Walter Williams, had this example. He was a great person. And I remember in class, he told us, he was trying to explain this using his own example. He and his wife were going to celebrate, I don't recall if it was their 40th or 30th wedding anniversary, something special. They had the dinner planned. And then at the last minute, a group of his old Army buddies were getting together that same night that he had planned for the anniversary. So obviously, who did you think he picked, right? Well, if you knew him, he picked his friends. And when he told his wife this, his wife said, "Walter, you love your friends more than your wife." And his response was, "Well, tonight I do." And all of us laughed, but some of us got it. What he was trying to say was, in total, of course I love you more. You're my wife. But at the margin, because this is such a unique opportunity, this is such a last minute thing that might not happen again, at the margin, I value my night with my friends more. So here's one of the early graphs I teach in my principles of economics classes. The downward sloping line is marginal benefit or marginal utility. The upward sloping line is marginal cost. And you notice that X intersects. And in economics, we call that point an equilibrium point, a point of balance. So there's a very famous principle called the law of diminishing marginal utility, or the law of diminishing marginal benefit, which means simply, let's use eating as a typical example. You're hungry, you haven't eaten all day, and let's just assume pizza is your favorite food. And let's do it in increments of slices. That first slice of pizza, if we could somehow, measure your utility, put this, helmet on your head and a little meter goes up, it would go up to, let's say, 100. Which means nothing. We're just making up numbers. You're probably still hungry. So you'll eat that second piece of pizza, but that second piece of pizza won't give you as much extra utility or benefit. Let's say 80. You might eat a third. You might eat a fourth, but eventually, whatever the number is, because it's subjective, you say, what? I'm full. Enough is enough. So the marginal benefits start high and decline But of course, you got to look at the other side. The marginal cost of something as you do it start low, but keep going up and up. So what's the optimal level you should do anything? Where these two lines intersect. So this is why if a professor ever tells you, the more you study, the better, or if a coach tells you, the more you practice, the better, what would that literally mean? You would read chapter 1 of your econ textbook once, you'd read it a second time, then you'd read it again, and read it again. You intuitively know that that's dumb. You get to a point where you're saying, what do you say to yourself? Good enough is good enough. I know it, because if I spend time reading this chapter one more time, that, let's say 1 hour, could be used instead to study for a different class or to get rest, etc. So why do I have these two movies? The Proposal with Ryan Reynolds, right? Deadpool, and Sandra Bullock and Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston, where you see hooking up on the dance floor. Some of you might find that objectionable. Some of you maybe have never seen this. Some of you maybe have seen this. How can this graph explain all of them? Well, The Proposal. Ryan Reynolds is with Sandra Bullock. I forgot the names of their characters. With her, each extra unit of time, the marginal benefits decline. Each extra unit of time, the marginal costs go up. And he got to a point where good enough was good enough. And so what did he do? He proposed. In this movie, when they got to this point, I think it was Jennifer Aniston's character had enough information to say, good enough is good enough in terms of my information. This is the good time, the optimal time to break up. And then you notice people here kissing or hooking up on the dance floor. Why weren't they doing this as soon as they walked into the club? Well, let's be honest. They wanted to see if they had somebody even more attractive. They didn't want to commit too soon. But they also didn't want to be so picky, then they would be kissing themselves. So they got to a point where good enough is good enough. So I know that maybe sounds harsh, like, wow, they must really like each other, maybe, or they just might be the good enough person for each other, however you want to look at it. And this is why it's interesting when the bartender says, last call, or they flash the lights on and off. It's amazing how behavior on that dance floor changes, because that MB equals MC point intuitively goes off in their head and they realize, okay, good enough. And they do what they do. I'm not saying I support that behavior, but economics explains what you see. So the love is free. I've already debunked that. Nothing is free. Hate to tell Sheryl Crow that. We could ask Lance Armstrong if her love was free. They dated a long time ago. And then my favorite, I need to have some water for this. It gets very emotional with Jennifer. Jennifer's a liar. Now, she's very successful. I respect that. And she says her love don't cost a thing. Well, this was, I think, Chris Judd, her first husband. Then it was Ben, before he was Batman. Then there was P. Diddy, Sean Combs. Then there was her husband, Mark Anthony, father of her, they have twins. Then there was A-Rod, right? New York Yankees. They're all smiling. They were all in love. In her own words, her song, right? Think you got to keep me ice? You don't. Think I'm going to spend your cash? I won't. Even if you were broke, my love don't cost a thing. And she's trying to say, look, I'm successful. And she is. I don't need your money. I don't need to spend your money. You don't need to spend money on me. So therefore, my love is free. It don't cost a thing. Wrong. Let's talk to Mark about how her love didn't cost a thing, because that's Mark now. That's P. Diddy now. This is a year ago, about a year ago. That was Alex Rodriguez, A-Rod, smiling away. That's him recently. And I predicted this last year. This was Ben after the first time. And now they're Benifer again. It's beautiful. And I wish him well. If you're at this seminar, if FTE asks me to do this next year, this will be Ben again. We'll see. Christina, my Ecuadorian, my mom was from Ecuador, South America. Christina is part Ecuadorian. My Ecuadorian cousin here, she's honest, because she had a song back in 1999, Genie in a Bottle, where she says, if you want to be with me, baby, there's a price to pay. So she uses the word correctly, price, and at least she's honest, saying, I'm not free. There's a price you need to pay. And you can listen to the song and figure what that is. Okay, so the time of the week. I found this. I'd like to elevate you from a Wednesday to a Saturday night date. A friend of mine sent this to me years ago because she understood that I would do this differentiation among the days of the week and the times of the days. How you know that's a signal as to whether or not someone really is into you. So I have what are called Monday, Tuesday coffee lunch people versus Friday, Saturday dinner movie people. I wanted, not that this ever happened to me, not that I've ever been shot down, asking someone on a date, but I wanted to know if you'd like to go to a dinner and on Friday night and then go to a Sharks game. Would you like to go to dinner on Saturday night and then see a movie? And hypothetically, this is the response. I'd love to, Ninos, but as soon as you hear but, it's like, no, if you'd love to, then, we would do it. We would go. The fact that you're saying but tells me you don't really love to. I'd love to, but I have to study on Friday night. How about coffee on Monday afternoon instead? Okay, you got to be reasonable. Maybe it's a big test coming up. Hey, and at least I got a coffee out of it. Would you like to go to dinner on Saturday night and then see a movie? Response, that sounds nice, but I have to wake up early on Sunday morning to go running. And I'm thinking, hypothetically, not that this ever happened, what are you training for the Olympics or the marathon? I didn't know that. How about lunch on Tuesday? Okay, maybe it's a big race, and at least I got a lunch on Tuesday. Let me tell you, hypothetically, what these responses were. You want me to give up a Friday night to go to a movie and to dinner and a Sharks game? That's potentially a 4, 5, 6 hour evening. I'm not going to give up 6 hours of a Friday for you. Monday, I have nothing better to do. That's what they're thinking. They don't say it, but that's what they're thinking. Monday, I have nothing better to do. Plus coffee is, perceivably only 45 minutes or an hour. Plus your face will really wake me up. We'll do Monday coffee instead. You want me to go out on a Saturday all the way up to San Francisco, which from where I live is over an hour away, and give up maybe 4, 5, 6 hours of a Saturday night? I don't think so. I'll go out. I'll do lunch with you on Tuesday. A, I got to eat. B, lunch is only about an hour. I have a legitimate excuse that I have to get back to work. C, Ninos, your face isn't so ugly that it's going to cost me, or it's going to cause me to vomit up my food. I'll see you Tuesday. Here's my point. If you're getting Mondays and Tuesdays in response to your Fridays and Saturdays, get the hint, move on. Because Mondays and Tuesdays are what I'm going to call low opportunity cost times. In plain English, times when you really have nothing better to do. Fridays and Saturdays are what I'm going to call the prime nights, right? And who do you want to give up your Fridays and Saturdays for? Your friends, people you're in a relationship with, people you're hoping to be in a relationship with. So this is why, on your cell phone, you have a ranking of friends. You're like, what do you mean? Let me tell you. There are some people on your cell phone, if they call you, you'll immediately answer. Or if they text you, you'll immediately text back. And there are some people, when they call you, don't you love caller ID? When I was a kid, I remember those phones in the 70s. Now, and you would answer the phone, hello, and then it's that person, and you're like, dang it, why did I pick up? Now it's caller ID. What do? I'll let that go to voicemail. And then what do? If you're nice enough to acknowledge their existence on planet Earth, you don't call them back. You text them, which I'll explain later. Hey, sorry I missed your call. No, you're not. That's why you can pick up the phone. Yeah, TTYL. You don't even give them a complete sentence. They're not even worth a complete sentence. You only give them a TTYL because you have better things to do with your time. There are other people, when they call, as soon as you're like, hello, right? So if you ever ask someone out for dinner on a Friday or Saturday, and they come back with you for a Monday or a Tuesday, move on. And maybe you've done this to people too, right? Spring break, Vegas, right? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. No, I'm going to change that. What happens in Vegas might come back to wherever you live. Katy Perry had a song. It's a few years old now. Last Friday night, and I'm not judging her. Flamingos were in the pool. Barbie was on the barbecue, whatever. It sounds like a crazy night. Why did Katy do the things she did on Friday night? I'm not judging her, because ex ante, that's that Latin phrase that means before, she was expecting the marginal benefit of those activities would be greater than the marginal cost. In plain English, She thought it would be worth it, right? Now, I have not done this yet either, but I promised I'm going to write Katy Perry. I'm going to send it to her manager, and I'm going to call the song Next Saturday Morning, and we'll see how next Saturday morning people feel like, have you ever done this? If I only knew then what I know now. Or how many times have people in college the next morning, I'll never do that again. Yeah, right? Why did you do what you did the Friday night before? Because you thought it was fun, it was worth it. You were thinking of now. You weren't thinking of tomorrow or 6 weeks down the road or 9 months down the road or 9 years down the road. So when you see this behavior also on spring break, why are people going wild, in Cancun or in Havasu, or back in the old days, it would be Florida or whatever? Why weren't they doing that behavior where they're from? Well, because it would be too much of an opportunity cost. They're assuming if I'm somewhere in another country, chances of me running into my employer or running into a professor, running into somebody I know, one of my parents' friends, is practically zero. So the opportunity cost of going wild is very low. And that's why people go crazy, when they're away on spring break compared to where they're at home. Okay, so what is texting? Texting is basically low opportunity cost communication. So again, if you're calling somebody and they conveniently only text you back, get the hint. They're basically saying you're not worth the time, right? And you've done this. Sometimes people call you, and you're like, that's going to be a 2-hour conversation. So what do? If you're nice, you text them because you don't want to take the time, right? You're economizing on time. Beyonce, why you should ignore her. Great singer, great artist, but her advice is, put a ring on it. And have you heard of the phrase, don't cry over spilt milk, right? And it doesn't mean literally if you spill milk, don't cry. There's a concept in economics called sunk costs. What's done is done. But the problem is people fall for what's called the sunk cost fallacy. So for example, I told you at the beginning, I've done this presentation and there was that couple dating and they were looking at each other like, not us. We're the outlier. We're going to get married. Okay. And I wish them well. And then I told you, one of them told me later they broke up. You don't know our relationship. It's like when I taught high school for many years, there were those senior couples, those couples you would see in the quad holding hands. We're together forever. And they would take out those ads in the yearbook. And then I would tell them, where are you going to college next fall? USC. Where are you going to college? ASU. You know what you're going to be thinking the first day when you're in college? Opportunity cost. Yeah. How many of those high school relationships are now led to marriages? I think one in my almost 15 years of teaching high school, actually two couples I can think of. So what do we mean by the sunk cost marriage? Move the bad economist. What does he tell you to do? Stay, get your money's worth. But that's bad economic thinking. The $15 it's gone. What you should do is get up and leave and not waste the next hour and a half or 2 hours of your precious, valuable time. You spend money on a dinner. Let's assume you can't take it home. There's no, can I have a bag, please, or a box? I ordered, let's say, $100 steak. I eat half of it. And then I realize, wow, I'm full. Little devil pops up on my shoulder. Finish this steak, right? Like man versus food. And this battle versus Malik versus food, Malik is going to crush the steak. But that's stupid economic thinking because the $100 is gone. So my two choices are eat half the steak, lose the money, but at least go home with no stomach ache, or force the steak into my gut, lose the $100, and then have a lot of pain when I get home. So what does this have to do with marriage and dating? I've known of couples who have dated for a long time. And they said to me, I hope he proposes. And I was thinking, why? Him proposing is you losing. But because we dated for like 10 years or 11 years. And then I've had, friends of mine, buddies of mine. Well, Malik, I might as well propose. And now look, I told you I'm not a dating doctor, but when they said that, with that look of pain, like they were about to go get executed. My opinion was, listen, if that's how you feel, maybe you shouldn't, right? And by the way, you know what they were thinking though? These guys were very good looking guys. So see this, think the opposite. Okay, it's okay. I have a very good self-esteem and I'm already married, so I'm good. So in any case, what were they thinking? And they were ethical guys, and I'll define ethical as they did not cheat. What they were thinking was, look, Malik, I've been dating her for about 2 or 3 years. I had the opportunity to date other women. If I don't marry her, the one he's in the relationship with, then those 2 or 3 years have been a waste. If he doesn't propose to me, these 11 years have been a waste. And I, as their good economics friend, told them, you're right, these 10 years have been a waste. I could have told you after 10 seconds this guy was a loser. But no, you were in love, this or this. Okay, the 10 years are gone. Don't ruin the next 10 or 20 years of your life. Better to be single. I might as well propose to her. That's not fair to the other person, man. It's not a charity. You're not doing something charitable here. And you're going to be miserable. She's going to be miserable. The 2 years are gone. Move on. So the point in economics is the only costs that should matter to you when you're making a decision are future opportunity costs. Don't try to rationalize by doing something because of the time you already put in. And that's why I say, don't listen maybe to Beyonce. Maybe if you like yourself, don't let that person put a ring on it. So why do people date? Companionship, sex, and again, moral, immoral, I leave that up to you. It's a signal to others like, hey, see, world, somebody likes me. That's why it's amazing how I see on Facebook in a relationship, then they're single, then next week they're in a relationship. I'm like, where do you find these people? But it's a signal like, see, people out there like me. And by the way, this is why I sometimes ask my students, why do people still have pictures of their exes on Facebook? I mean, isn't that weird? I mean, you're married and you have pictures of this ex-boyfriend or girlfriend, this. And I've asked students why, and they're like, well, maybe they forgot. Like, no, they didn't. And I've had students say, and my argument, maybe it's a resume builder to show the world, hey, see, I was able to get more than one person to like me. I don't know. I leave that up to you as individuals to make those choices. But marriage, let's focus on marriage. If your reason to date is marriage, so let's assume you're at a stage in life where you're ready to get married, you want to get married, and maybe not getting married is rational. But let's assume you want to get married and you're ready to get married. So when you got married, did you find the perfect person? Now, my wife is upstairs, so yes. But let's be honest. Did you find, on a planet of 7 billion people almost, did you find the perfect person? Probably not. Okay. So let's assume that dating is in increments of months. Unless you're Britney Spears, it's in hours. A long time ago, she married someone, I think in Vegas after 54 hours or whatever. You can be too picky, yes, but also sometimes not picky enough. So The Bachelor, this is a long time ago. This was Brad and Emily. It was so beautiful, on his knee, she's crying. This is what they said. I don't remember. Oh, Brad, you're the perfect guy. Blah, blah. Oh, Emily, you're the most beautiful person on a planet of 7 billion people. There's no one prettier. I mean, they're both good looking people. I'm sure they were both nice. For the record, they're not together. I think they broke up after before the show even was released. But there's nobody who's a little bit more compatible. There's nobody who's a little bit prettier, a little bit more this, a little bit. Sure. There's committing too soon, but if you're too picky, you're going to be proposing to yourself, right? You're going to be crying alone. So there's an optimal level of pickiness. What was that optimal level of pickiness? Where MB equals MC. So what was Brad really saying? When I proposed to my wife, what did I say? I don't remember. I said, I love you. You're perfect, whatever, right? But what was I thinking? Well, my wife's name, Nikki. Nikki, the marginal benefits of dating you are now equal to, I thought this, I didn't say this. This is why I tell my econ students, when I taught high school, Dr. Malik, I told this. I'm like, be quiet, keep that econ voice in your head, because then you'll never be in a relationship. But what I was thinking was the marginal benefit of dating you is now equal to the marginal cost. God on my knee, will you marry me? And she said, which is true, you're the perfect guy, you're the best looking guy, etc. But what was she thinking? And she's not an economist, but it's as if she was saying, well, Ninos, I've been with you long enough that the marginal benefit of dating you is now equaled the marginal cost. I have enough information. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. So I know I just took the romance. Hallmark is not going to hire me to write their Valentine's cards, but that's basically what I did. So let me tell you, I have about 10 minutes here, 9 minutes, how I economized on time. So you don't have to take this advice, but I'd never been married. I was 40 years old. I was in relationships, but never led to marriage. I was single, no kids. Everyone was trying to set me up. My mom, I'm an only kid. My mom was like, hey, are you going to get married? Like to have grandkids? I'm like, leave me alone. It's okay to be single. You could live a very fulfilled life. I was able to travel, right? Because it's about trade-offs. I can't tell my wife and kids, hey, off to, Europe for 9 months, bye. I mean, I could, I guess, but there would be a high opportunity cost, right? But what did I do? So I was single. My now sister-in-law, so obviously it worked out, right? I got married, yay. My now sister-in-law was my former high school student. She graduated back in 2001. Well, this is 2012, so 11 years later. And, we had kept in contact, and she's like, hey, Ninos, I know you're single. Hey, I think you and my sister, Nikki, would be a good man. I'm thinking, oh gosh, here again, someone's trying to set me up. So I asked some questions because I don't like to waste my time, and my personality, if you knew me better, I don't like to waste another person's time. I think that's disrespectful. And I'm a take it or leave it type of person. Here it is, take it or leave it. So I'm not going to change my face. I'm not going to add hair, to make myself look better or anything like that, right? Here it is, take it or leave it. So I asked some questions, and I did what any other person would do. I went on Facebook to see what she looked like, because yes, I'm not saying looks is the most important thing, but it matters. Oh, that's so superficial. Give me a break. You don't want to be married to the person. I wouldn't want my wife to say, Ninos is such a great person. He's so nice. He's so kind, but oh, it's so hard to look at that face, right? You would hope the person you're with is somewhat attracted to you, right? So let's be real. So I told my now sister-in-law, tell your sister, go to www.ninosmalik.com. True story. Because that website had my bio, had my birth date, had my cultural background. I'm half Middle Eastern, half Hispanic. My mom was from Ecuador. My dad's Assyrian from Iran, but he's something called Assyrian. I was 40. My wife at the time was 30. So, my mom and dad were 13 years apart. Not a big deal to me, but I wanted her to know all of these details. Plus, there was a picture of my face and my bald head. So I always use my one of my favorite movies, of course, got to support my bald guys, my Fast and the Furious analogy. If she were attracted to the Paul Walker flowy blonde hair, clearly she would not like me. If she were more attracted to the Vin look, and some other of my buddies of the shaved heads, then maybe I have a chance. So I said, tell her to go to this website. Apparently my face did not scare her off. We started writing each other. She lived a couple of hours away. And what I appreciated about her was she was like me in the sense was she didn't want to waste her time. She was 30, I was 40. There was an age gap, but we were both older. And what kind of things did I write in those messages? What kind of things did she write in those messages? Not like, did you have a goldfish when you were a little girl? Who cares, right? I asked big things, and I told her big things like, hey, I'm not going to propose tomorrow, but I'm at a stage in life where I would like to get married. I would like to have kids. My plan is to get a full-time college position here in the Bay Area. So I'm not planning on moving. I have older parents. My mom and dad were 13 apart. And if, culturally, I want to be close to my parents if something happens, because I don't have brothers and sisters. So I was like, here it is. And what I appreciated was she had the same personality. And we continued month, and it was 7 months. Again, and that seemed fast to you, but 30, 40, we already, we were more mature. At 7 months, I proposed. Was my information about her perfect? No. But it was good enough. And then 8 months later, so 15 months total is when we got married. There is a cost to being married. There's a movie called Old School with Will Ferrell and Vince Vaughn here, and Owen, not Owen Wilson, Luke Wilson, or I forgot his name here. But in any case, there's a part, and I'm not going to say it, where the bride is walking down the aisle and Vince Vaughn reminds Will Ferrell about the high opportunity cost, assuming that he would be ethical and not cheat, right? So there are benefits to getting married, of course. There's also opportunity costs. But here's the point. If you're only thinking about the opportunity costs while you're engaged, oh man, I'm going to miss out. Don't get married, right? So dating websites. When I was in my 20s, I think that's when they started coming out, like eHarmony. No one wanted to admit that they met someone on a dating website. It was like, what a loser. Now people brag about how they met someone. Makes perfect economic sense. What are dating websites? They reduce the opportunity costs, right? They bring information to you. You're able to discriminate. And when people say, I would never discriminate. Yeah, you do. You have a certain type you like. Maybe religion's important to you. Maybe someone wanting to have children or not wanting to have children is important to you. Someone's age, whether they're willing to move. What are you doing? You're discriminating. You're choosing, right? I almost moved to England because apparently women in England, I was single for a long time, right? Like bald heads. And then, hey, yay, my wife won, right? She met me in San Jose. So, but you have Match.com. It's just lunch to send the signal. It's just lunch, right? It's not dinner. Lunch is a signal that it's a low opportunity cost. In fact, one of my former high school students was an executive for this company years ago. There are silver singles for people 50s or over. So if I were single, I guess I could be on that, which is scary because I know you all thought I looked younger than 51 almost. Farmers only. I mean, come on, don't you love the market? I love the free market. I mean, you want it, it's out there, right? Brings people together, reduces what we call the transactions cost. You don't have to physically now go here, meet somewhere there. Now, it's nice to meet people, maybe if religion's important to you at your church, whatever, because you understand that people probably have the same views. But the stereotypical old days, people go to a bar, go here. There's high transactions costs, right? There's a high opportunity cost to your time. So these have been very successful by bringing people together. And what do? Click, click, or you're discriminating, clicking on income, clicking on maybe height, maybe on background, maybe on their education level. And so I would say these dating websites have helped people by reducing transactions costs. So yeah, you do discriminate. And I would even say this, because I've had friends who've gotten divorced. And I'll go here for about another 1 minute or so. Well, I'm like, why'd you get divorced? I'm not judging them, but she wanted kids. You dated for 5 years. That never came up. Or I have friends who are religious, friends who are atheists. She wants the kid baptized. I'm an atheist. Again, did you not have this conversation in the 6 years you dated? Really? What were you talking about? Goldfish, right? So it's good to get those big things out in the open so that you can make the best decision possible. It doesn't mean it's going to be perfect, but at least you want to get those things out of the way. And that's why I say, be careful about someone's hobbies, risk tolerance. I'm not an adrenaline junkie, and I would resent my wife if she were. I know of people, friends of mine, who love living to the edge, going, bungee jumping, whatever. And I'm a very cautious person. They would feel restrained by me. So you want to talk about these things. Things that you think are little could end up being very important later. Don't be too picky, but also be somewhat picky, right? Maybe you're not picky enough. Be careful about the it'll all work out. Love will conquer all. No, I'm not Dr. Phil, but let me tell you that. You want to use this as well as use this, right? Use both, right? Maybe even more of this. You see two animals here going in, they're two different animals going in two different directions. They're called, some people use the phrase unequally yoked. So you want to make sure that there's some foundations, moral foundations, lifestyle foundations that are similar. That's my advice. I told you I wouldn't give you advice, but I am. And then finally, I love this one. Maybe you've heard this. Not that I ever heard this one. I don't want to date you, but I'd love to marry you one day. What? Okay, if somebody tells you that, don't waste your time on them. I don't care how good looking they are or whatever. And probably these people now are still single, or in a relationship that they realize where you were the person they should have been with. So some final thoughts: be honest about yourself, about your deal breakers. Don't hide the truth. Be honest with somebody. Be honest with yourself about what will bother you. If that person doesn't change, okay, don't expect the person to change their core, who they are. Be honest with yourself if you're even ready, emotionally, psychologically, maybe spiritually, financially. Be careful about this person will complete me. That Jerry Maguire nonsense. You should be complete yourself, right? Two complete people coming together. It's not like a puzzle. Be realistic, though, about the expectations of others. Sometimes differences can become positives when they're combined. However, many differences can be negative. So when you hear this opposites attract, be careful about what's the opposite. Is it some moral framework, religious framework, views of family? Because that could tear you apart. Don't date a project. He'll change, she'll change. This is not, some show you watch on TV. This is not Robert Irvine on Restaurant Impossible, where you go in and destroy the restaurant. Find something that's already pretty much what you want. And here's some recommended books, and you'll have this. So I'll stop there. Again, I apologize for my voice, but I hope you found this interesting. And I'm ready for any questions and answers.
Great. Thank you, Ninos.
Sure.
That
And I'll
was
stop
great.
sharing. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. No worries. You can, I guess I have about 4 or 5 earlier relationships in college I should have listened to your lecture on before or beforehand.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at some of the questions here. I've got a question here from Gregory, and he's asking, I have high school students in an introductory economics course. Thank you for this presentation. It says, what do you recommend for activities in class? And he says breakout activities.
Related specifically to economics of dating for high school. Okay. I taught high school for almost 15 years. And I taught, full disclosure, I taught at a school called Valley Christian High School in San Jose. And so I was able to bring in economics, religion, what have you. And I had students of different backgrounds, but they knew it was a private school, their parents knew. And so when they would ask me questions about marriage, where this person, they don't believe this now, but maybe they'll believe later. I think one of the best things is to have an age appropriate discussion. Okay, if this is important to you, then why are you in this relationship with this person? If that's not important to them, that's a signal to yourself that maybe you're not ready for that relationship. So I would say having a discussion, thinking about opportunity costs, thinking about the long run, not the short run, are good things. In terms of an activity like a breakout, I guess you could break up the students and, have them like think, pair, share. Hey, are you in a relationship? Do you ever want to get married? Just to see what the students say, and then come back together as a whole. And you could steal some of this. What's important to you? Do you think it's okay to date somebody who's completely different than you in terms of, those important deal breakers? And you'll get some good conversations, which I had numerous. Movie examples, yeah, like I brought into, again, depending on age, you might be careful which clips you show. Like the old school one, I wouldn't show it at the high school, but you could at least reference them. A college class, of course, you could adjust. But there are a lot of movies out there. Yeah, I gave you a couple, but there's so many more. There's Valentine's Day. There were all those famous actors in that movie that you could watch and maybe bring in clips. So there's a lot out there. I love using pop culture in movies.
Well, I know I was pretty impressed with your knowledge of musicians and between Jennifer Lopez and
teaching high school. You gotta stay relevant. I mean, I haven't taught high school for a little while, but you gotta stay relevant.
We have another question here, and this one says, or is asking, how can constraints be applied to the economics of dating?
Well, you asked, so I'll give myself as an example, if I'm understanding your question correctly. So my opportunity set, the way Walter Williams would talk, was constrained, that to me, a particular religious viewpoint was important. Somebody who wanted to have children was important. So if that didn't match up right there, I wasn't even going to waste their time nor my time. When you're younger, you're thinking, wow, they're so good looking, they're this, maybe things will work out. When I got older, I realized I'm not going to waste my time. And so my choice set was, I discriminated. Yeah, I had the little check marks, check, check. Now, could that be considered too picky? I don't think so. I don't think I was too picky. Now, if you say the person has to be exactly 5'7" and 1/4 inch, this exact weight, point something, this color, then it's like, yeah, then look at yourself, because you're not going to be with anybody. But I do believe that you should be very restrictive in terms of what's important to you. And that's subjective. For some people, very few constraints. Arguably for me, compared to some of my friends, I had a lot. And you got to be honest with the other person and yourself.
So earlier on in your talk, you discussed or mentioned revealed preferences.
Right.
Do you have any other examples of sort of revealed preferences in relating to relationships that maybe would be a good hint for some of the single people in the audience?
Well, okay. So revealed preference, I start off with, like I did with you, actions speak louder than words. So if I tell my students, De Anza College or San Jose State is taking advantage of me. If you saw my paycheck, they're taking advantage of me. And a lot of my students will say, yeah, and it's great. They try to relate to me, solidarity with the professor. But then I tell them, look, I would love to get paid more. I think I deserve a lot more. I'm Nino Smalik, right? But how do you know I'm getting paid good enough? Because you're looking at me. I mean, I love economics and I love teaching, but love doesn't pay the bills. I can't pay my PG&E with love, right? So how do you know I'm getting paid good enough? By the fact that I'm here. My action tells you. The movie ripped me off. If I really thought that, I would never have walked into the movie theater. So I was trying to say was, when somebody says, I'd love to, but this is my test. And some of my friends think I'm a little too strict on this. I'd love to, Ninos, not that this happened, but I have to study. So I asked my students this: think of the hottest person in Hollywood, whoever you subjectively have the biggest crush on. You think, wow, think of that person. Okay, now you just told somebody, oh, I'd love to, but I'm studying. Think of that person in Hollywood. If they texted you, you'd be like, yes. But Ninos told me you have a test tomorrow. That's okay. I'll retake the class. Oh, it's amazing how you'll suck it up for that person. But for the previous person, you were like student of the year. You had to study. What you were basically saying by your action was, you're not worth my time. Now, we don't say that because that's not a good way to keep friends. But really, what you're saying is, I actually would prefer being with my book tonight than with you. Right? I mean, that's what I would say. So if you're getting this response from somebody, I would say, have a little pride. If I go back in time, I would have a little more pride in myself, and I would have said, thank you. And I would not have asked the same person again. Get the hint. I know it sounds blunt, but hey, and harsh, but hey, trust me. I'm having,
that reminds me when we went and had coffee. Now I know. I'm glad I didn't ask you out for a Friday night.
For you, I would have made time, Ted. But that is a serious point. There are some people, I share with my students, would you like to get together for coffee? And I'm like, sure. How about in Cupertino at 1 p.m.? Because that was my office hours. I had to be there anyway. So, you kind of get the hint. Or when you call somebody and you tell them, please call me back anytime during the day, call me back, but just please don't call me between 2 and 3 because I'm in a Zoom meeting. And they happen to call you back at 2. What are they doing? They're calling you back so they could look like a nice friend, but they're basically calling you back on purpose at that time because they're basically signaling, I don't want to talk to you, right?
This is an interesting comment we have in the chat from Kathy. I like this. She says, I'm having reservations in my relationship because I just found out my boyfriend has never heard of Anne Frank. Is that terrible?
Like I said, costs and benefits are subjective. What's important to you is important to you. For some people, they might say, come on, don't be so harsh. Don't be so restricted. If that's important to you, how well read someone is, their knowledge of a certain topic is important to you. If that is a deal breaker, I cannot answer that for you, then be honest with yourself, because maybe let's just assume it's, you know what, how is he not well read? You know, how does he not know? How does that person not know? How does she not know that? If it's that big of a deal to you, assume that that's not going to change. And will that bother you? And if it won't, then fine. I love going to the movies. My wife doesn't. That's okay. It works out because then I could do some things, you know, on my own. She likes doing things we like doing things together. But if it was important to me, I have to have a movie partner who's my wife, then we would have had a problem, because certain things don't change. I mean, I guess she could come, but you would feel that, you know, her resentment. So I can't answer that for you, but if it's important to you, then it's important to you.
All right, great. We'll do one last, looks like one last question. This is kind of maybe a question, opinion, comment. This will be the last one and we'll wrap up. And this is from Robert. And he is saying, we know too much, or he's writing, we know too much. Economics demonstrates ignorance is bliss. We're sadder, right?
We know too much. So here's what I say, and maybe again, I'm hoping I'm interpreting this correctly. When I proposed to my wife, was my information perfect? No. If I dated my wife, I told you 7 months, and I proposed her. If I would have dated her another month, would I have gotten more information? Sure. There would have been a marginal benefit, but the marginal cost would have been 1 extra month of delaying starting our life together, right? To each their own. We did not live together before we got married. So each additional month of dating, there would have been a marginal. Eventually, maybe I would have found out if she liked goldfish as a little girl, but the marginal cost would have been yet another month. So when I propose, you've heard of the phrase, right? You just got to pull the trigger, you got to make the decision. If you're waiting to have perfect information, good luck. We'll never make any decision. So economics, what I like about economics, it forces us to teach, or forces us to think about the world, that there's trade-offs, nothing is free, that there's always an opportunity cost. There's 2 sides of a coin. There are benefits and there are costs. What those are, be honest with yourself. And I think that will save a lot of time, misery, drama down the road.
All right, great. Well, thank you, Professor Malik. Appreciate your time for joining us, and everyone else for participating in our webinar. We would ask you to please take a moment to fill out the evaluation at the end of the webinar. And we've also would say, if you are interested in any FTE programs, we do have programming coming up this later spring as well as the summer. We have some sites listed up on the website on the screen here, but also just visit the FTE website at www.fte.org for our full summer sessions that will be live here in about a month. So again, thank you everyone, wherever you are. I appreciate all your time and have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
And thank you, Professor Malik.
And if you have any questions, teachers, whoever, please feel free to send an email to me. And if I could be of help, I appreciate what you all do teaching economics. So thank you.
All righty.
Thanks, Ted. Thanks, Marissa.
Okay. Yeah, no,
Bye.
thank you. Have a great day or great evening.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. I'll stay on. Thank you.